Have you ever wondered how your sales performance compares against your competitors and peers? The B2B Sales Benchmark Report provides the definitive guide to what success looks like in 2021. See how you compare in terms of win rate, sales cycle, average deal value, relationships, and engagement. You can see the results and get the full report at ebsta.com/B2B-sales-benchmarks.
At the end of the day, understanding what the total addressable market is, I guess to use kind of a finance term, is to go out there and identify everything that we can to serve up what we believe to be the customers with the highest propensity to buy or to have compatibility to what it is we do.
This is Sales Ops Demystified, the number one most downloaded podcast in sales operations. We invite the brightest minds in sales ops onto the show to deconstruct the what, why, and how behind rep productivity, forecasting, metrics, and all things revenue. This podcast is brought to you by ebsta, a revenue intelligence platform used to identify risk in the pipeline and score customer engagement, and is sponsored by the Global Sales Operations Association and the UK Revenue Operations Network. Hello, and welcome to another very special episode of the Sales Ops Demystified podcast. Today, we're joined by Will Brown, who is the Director of Sales Operations at Loadsmart. Will, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So the first question that I'm quite interested in, not so related to sales ops, is that you actually originated your career, I believe, and confirm me if I'm correct here, in journalism. And then from there, we went to sales, and from there went to sales ops. So this is quite an interesting transition. But first, why the move from journalism into sales?
Yeah, it's a really good one. I started really in journalism. I was just very interested on how stuff works, right? You get a chance in journalism to go out doing what you're doing right now, asking a bunch of questions, trying to learn different subject matters. Ultimately, it was a great job. I loved it a lot. I learned and had amazing experiences. Talked to people that normally wouldn't get to in normal walks of life. 2 presidents I actually interviewed when I was back in the day. At this point, but no, at some point it's sort of a thing where you typically move up into sort of more of an anchor type of role. I was never really interested in that specifically. I liked the kind of the boots on the ground type of thing. So for me, I sort of decided to make kind of a shift. It's also an absolute grind, a real young person's game if you're going to stay in kind of that reporter role. So
surely sales is as well, or not so much.
It really is, but sometimes if you're good at it, you make money, so that helps as well. Yeah,
got it. So that makes sense. It seems like there was great learnings and great experience, but actually there was some other things that you prefer to do. How would you say that the journalism skill set has helped you in sales ops?
Oh, absolutely. I think an absolute ton. I mean, I think the genuine curiosity that you need to go out there and try to get to the heart and understand what's happening. I think a lot of times things I'm doing, today's the end of our quarter, for example, I'm going to be crafting some sort of board package, right? I need to figure out how to take all these numbers and all these things that are happening within the sales journey and figure out how to tell a story with it, right? And that's so much of what you do, I think, with journalism and reporting in general, is you take a look at sometimes very difficult or sometimes even boring subject matter that you need to tell a compelling story with. And I think there's a lot of parallels to that. Asking a lot of questions, you're not going to be any good at your job in sales operations if you're not, reaching across the aisle to people in finance, people in marketing, BI, all those people asking the right questions. Of course, too, just of the specific sales leaders you're working with, to really understand and get to the heart of what it is they're trying to say. I think all sort of really very, very much served me well. I think transitioning.
And now you're saying that it does start to make sense. You probably turbocharged your communication skills during your time as a journalist. Clearly, these are you're required to be effective at communication when selling. And then now also you're sharing examples of when communication is actually crucial in the sales ops role. So actually, maybe we should be putting more sales ops people through journalism school. What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe. I think that you hit the nail on the head, though. I think a lot of the things you need to effectively communicate and bring things along. Good traits. I don't know if I think everybody has sort of an unorthodox path to sales ops.
And then I always find this fascinating. The shift from your role in sales into sales operations, as opposed to just maybe staying in sales and being an individual contributor, or even going into, say, sales leadership. What made you take the ops route?
Yeah, I think it became pretty apparent to me, and I definitely got a little bit of a nudge there as well. After journalism, I went on to kind of actually, being that quota-carrying, bag-holding rep. Ultimately, he was promoted to a manager of a smaller territory. But I was doing pretty good. I wouldn't say I was the best in the world, but I was doing pretty good for this tiny little geographic region that I was supposed to be managing. And at the time, my chief sales officer kind of came to me and said, "What's working? What are you doing out there in the middle of nowhere that's working for you so well?" And I was like, "Well," and so I put probably my sales ops nerdy glasses on. I was like, "Well, I was digging through Salesforce and I found some historical data and I adjusted my team's targets based on a lot of the segmentation that I was noticing that was working for us from an industry standpoint. And then I developed a little bit of a playbook so they knew how to go to market with it, and sort of gave them some suggestions as to like how to reach out, maybe the cadence which they would do that." And he's like, all right. Have you ever heard of sales operations? And so that's sort of where I stopped with sales and sort of made the leap on the other side of the wall there, and been doing it for the last 10 years.
This is a very common answer to that question. The person is performing well in sales. They're really interested in improving and making the process better. And then someone from another department or the boss or the leader comes and says, "How are you doing this?" And then they get pulled into sales ops. That makes total sense. This question may be a little nebulous, but the kind of Loadsmart, the business, the goal stated on the website is to move more with less. How does, and this is kind of a nebulous question, but I'm sure you'll be able to give a great answer, Will. How does the sales ops function help Loadsmart with this goal?
Yeah, great question. So just a little context for Loadsmart is essentially what we are is we use AI and hundreds of data sources to automate truckload booking. So analogy we use sometimes to kind of explain it for people is back in the day, you're going to go see your aunt in Phoenix, let's say. You used to call Southwest, you used to call American, United, all these different companies try to get a good rate and see what made sense for you. We're basically doing the same thing in logistics. There's still shippers out there that have load planners that do this, and they manually call and still it's sometimes fax, stuff like that. So it's really antiquated stuff. But it's really our goal to unlock things through digitization. So we kind of think of ourselves as the nerds in logistics. And so if you think of a company that has a motto to move more with less, could there be more of a dream job for someone in sales operations that sort of embraces this idea of efficiency and effectiveness, which is really at the heart and the holy grail of what we do in sales operations. So for me, yeah, very much a great parallel there.
Got it. So that's the mission of the company, but it's almost like within the mini company that you have of sales operations, you have a similar mission. And although you may be moving different things, there are parallels between the two. That makes total sense. Could you just share a little bit more about the structure or the current format of the sales ops team right now at Loadsmart?
Yeah. So right now we're a relatively lean and mean team, but I think one of the stories of Loadsmart is we're rapidly growing so quickly. So along with that, of course, will be our sales operations team. So right now, I kind of very much happy as a player coach in the role that I have. We also have a Salesforce administrator and a Salesforce analyst, and a little plug if there's any great Salesforce specialists out there looking to make their name and want to hop on this rocket ship of ours. That's how we're currently made up.
Of course, if anybody is listening, find Will on LinkedIn, Will Brown, Loadsmart on LinkedIn, and ping him a message. And Will, if you do have a job description for that, for any roles, let us know. We'll put that somewhere around this video or audio. Makes total sense. Could you also share the current sales tech stack you're running?
Yeah, so the nucleus, I think, like a lot of people that we have is Salesforce is our CRM. We're using ZoomInfo for all of those great, contacts and account data that we're looking to gather. And then SalesLoft we use as our sales engagement tool. And LinkedIn Sales Navigator, kind of who we're looking for, who we're trying to find is I'd say the core of it. There's also other little bits and pieces, but I'd say that's the core.
Awesome, makes sense. What is since you've been at Loadsmart, what would you say is the thing that you've done that has had the biggest impact on the productivity of the reps?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one thing that I it may seem like a small thing. One thing that I get very, I'd say, obsessed with is pinning down what we believe to be our universe of accounts. So we really strive to be like a good customer to buy from, a good organization to sell for. But at the end of the day, understanding what the total addressable market is, I guess to use kind of a finance term, is to go out there and identify everything that we can to serve up what we believe to be the customers with the highest propensity to buy or to have compatibility to what it is we do. My goal is that every sales calorie is spent at pursuing customers that we think that make a ton of sense. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do this. A lot of little things we sort of massage into the process. Obviously, we look at segmentation, things like annual revenue, full truckload spend, understanding their industry even a little deeper. A lot of times I dig into not just industry, but like NAICS codes, the North American Industry Classification System, to really dig deep to see like what are industries that make sense for us to sell through to, but also on the other side of our business, what is easy for them to work with. So that customer experience, that customer journey is not just a customer bringing in that we think makes sense for us, but also on the back end is someone that we think that we can provide great customer service with, which ultimately has a ton of great benefits to it. So I would say like really weaponizing my sales team with the right contact lists. It's pretty simple, but I think there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot more of a secret sauce that I probably couldn't share here. But yeah, I would say that's probably one of the things I'm the most proud of. It's an ongoing process to kind of serve them up exactly what they need. So every call has a higher chance of connecting. Every account that they talk to is more than likely not going to say, no, we don't do that.
There's two concepts you brought up in the answer that I really like. The first is weaponizing the sales team. I think that may be the title of this episode. I think that's a lovely analogy. The second one was burning sales calories. And this is super interesting. So what you're essentially saying here is that the sales team have a finite amount of energy or calories, and it's your role, the sales ops, to ensure that they're spent most effectively.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I think that it's not just kind of establishing that universe of accounts that I'd mentioned, but it's also constantly being obsessed with qualifying things in, not just taking things from marketing that come in, but also us in sales ops striving for more and more of what makes sense to add to this universe, and then building the sales team to really help us disqualify things out. We're not going to be perfect. I kind of call it sales operations qualified accounts. That we've gone in and really tried to put as much science to it as possible. So exactly as I was kind of explaining, yeah, it's at every moment they're spending is working on something we think is going to intrinsically bring value back through the entire life, through the sale, through the entire customer satisfaction end of things. And so, yeah, absolutely right. There's a lot that goes into it. And I think you can, I think their participation is huge too, as we identify. We're not always right on some of those things. They do a great job of removing things from that universe as well. So they're always working on this, again, total addressable market. We think of these are all the customers that we'd love to have.
That was really, really helpful. So you essentially added an extra stage into that sort of process where you do have an actual sales ops qualified.
Yeah. And hopefully it's not something that the sales team even feels. We want to make, for them, the experience, as easy as possible to sell. And if I can take those things and serve them up to them on a silver platter, as I sort of mentioned, they won't necessarily always feel that. But I think at the end of the day, they know that there's some work being done when they're picking up the phone and there's people that their message resonates with. And not as many of those, no, we don't do that. Sorry, that type of thing.
Okay. And I've tried to do a bit of sort of pre-qualification to help the sales team and to give them the best information, to put them in the best thing. And I think the main issue I've found with this is the turnaround time. How quickly can you turn around, a marketing qualified lead to become a sales ops qualified lead? What is your normal kind of, how quickly are you working that through?
Yeah, I sort of look at those things in two different channels. I think marketing qualified is one thing. I think you have to decide, I think, with marketing qualified leads, whether or not you're going to own that, massage it, pass it out to sales, where I think that you probably lose a little time when you do that, as opposed to, there's benefits to going that direction. Obviously, you can sort of enrich the data, get rid of the garbage on their behalf. So they know they're doing that. For marketing, we haven't, I think speed is probably your better option there, right? The faster we can get it to them, round robin, going that way. I sort of look at the sales ops qualified as a completely different journey, a completely different piece that we're another channel where we always have this swath of accounts that we can actively bring in and out on a various, 2-3 month cadence that keeps fresh, good accounts in their name while marketing is also coming through a different channel.
Fascinating. Thanks. That was really, really helpful and really interesting.
Cool.
What have you guys been focused on in the early stages of 2021?
Well, as I sort of mentioned, it's kind of a rocket ship over here. In Q4, I think it was 208% year-over-year growth that we've had. And we just had that $90 million round of funding that happened. BlackRock, Maris, some really great companies backing us in November. So with that, we are sort of, pushing out new modes. So like less than truckload, rail, partial, some things that you guys probably don't need to get too deep into. But with all that, obviously comes a whole lot of process planning, new comp plans, adjusting customer targets, perfecting really, the evolving sales motion. So for us, it's very much a story, I think, of scaling right now. And for me, it's so much of preparing what we do and preparing the sales team for all that growth, all that potential. Obviously, always looking to do whatever we can to bring more optimization to the supply chain. So that's really it for me. It's scaling and growing, and how do we sort of kind of take all the bits to that and sort of stay nimble to react and still provide the best service possible to sales.
It makes total sense. So it seems like 2021 is going to be a bit of a journey for you guys, and as opposed to having like more strategic, structured focuses, you're going to be just focusing on ensuring that you're able to continue to support sales as all these new sales reps come into business.
Yeah, I think that's true. We do have some very strategic plans and some different things that we're going to be doing to continue to grow what we're doing in our brand in general. And I think specializing our sales team in different areas a little bit more, making it a little bit more of, I would say, a sales assembly line, if you will. So with that, being able to dig in deeper into very specific metrics based on each, I would say, the cogs of that assembly line. So there's definitely a lot of strategic aspects to it, but there's also a lot of it's got to put your foot to the pedal too as we grow to make sure we're growing responsibly.
Exactly. Final question: who in the world of sales ops would you most like to take for lunch?
Oh man. It's a toughie. You know what would be really interesting is was it back in the 70s? Was it J. Patrick Kelly, I think was his name, was the first, sort of credited as the first leader of sales operations. Curious, that's like 30, 40 years ago, something like that. I've seen a ton of my career last 10, 12, 13 years, whatever it's been. Tons of change. And I can't imagine what it would be like to be like in the first person in that role and how it's changed over time. So that'd be a pretty cool person, I guess.
This is the first time I've heard of this person. Do you know which company he worked or works for?
Xerox. It was Xerox back in the day. It's good to be a historian of what I'm doing, I guess, a little bit. Yeah, but Xerox really started back in the 70s. And I think they initially sort of called sales ops as all the nasty number things that you don't want to do, but it makes a great sales force. And so I think there's been a ton of evolution since then. But I'm sure this guy would have great perspective.
We are going to have to try and find him and bring him on the show, obviously.
There you go.
This is a great recommendation. Thank you, Will. Amazing. Will, thank you. Thank you so much for your time and coming on and sharing everything that's going on at Loadsmart. As I said, the two analogies that I'm going to keep from this episode, the weaponizing the sales team, but then also the concept of the sales calorie, just to, I guess, remind myself and any other sales ops people listening that the resources or the energy of the sales team is not, or is finite, and therefore must be used in the most effective way possible. And that really is the role of the sales ops team. So I think that's a lovely little lesson to finish with. Will, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sales Ops Demystified podcast. If you are listening on a podcast listening application, then please subscribe, rate, and review. And if you have any questions about the show, if you know a guest, or if you have any questions about sales operations, just hit me up at tomhunt@ebster.com. That's tomhunt@ebster.com.